I am doing this video series for the students who might have been finding it difficult to grasp the concepts in this subject of social study. I hope that by watching these short videos that you will be able to glean a much, deeper interest and a desire to study this subject in depth. All right, so let's go. Focus, students, please focus. Good morning. My name is June. Today I want to be looking at aspects of the CXC CSEC syllabus for social studies. We probably don't start at the very beginning because I am aware that you would have done some earlier work. We want to look at the family. Today we start by looking at the family. Alright? And we're using the modules in social study with the SBA guide and CXC questions. That is the book that we're actually using. I put one of the books that I'll be referencing, and we have another one also. So the syllabus calls for many things, and here we have section 1, the individual and society. The individual as a social being. So we're starting with the family. And here we're asking, what is a family? And I am reading, the family is a group of individuals who are intimately related, living under the same roof, supporting and maintaining each other socially, economically, and emotionally. All right? So that's the definition of a family, a group of individuals who are intimately related, living under the same roof, supporting and maintaining each other socially, economically, and emotionally. They went on to talk about the conjugal family and the consanguine. In a family, there may be found a conjugal pair. That is the family structure. We're talking about the conjugal pair, which consists of a husband and a wife. And then we have the consanguine family, or blood relatives such as mother and her children, or a father and his children. Yes. So, apart from the characteristics that I mentioned above, members of a family share the following. Also, a common surname, resemblance in most cases, and same religious belief. So we'll ask now, what is a family? And then we'll ask to differentiate between the conjugal family and the consanguine family. Bear that in mind. We have gone to this book, and we are looking now at the individual and the family. All right, individual interaction. And we're looking at the identity. We belong to a family of humankind, but we also belong to our own family in our own society. Almost everyone in society belongs to a family. There can be no general definition of the term family, as its structure and function differ from society to society. So in different societies, the family structure might be different, as well as the function of the family. In our society, the family is seen as a group of persons related by blood, generally living in one house and formed of parents and children. So we are born into a family, and at some stage we usually enter into a new relationship, sometimes called marriage or matrimony, and thus forming a new branch of our family. Alright, so we can sometimes trace these relationships by using what is known as a family tree. Alright, here is an idea of a family tree. We can look at the functions of the family. Functions of the family. What do you think are some of the functions of the family? Let us talk about it. So, I am reading again, okay? And here we're told that there are some basic functions that the family perform. And without these functions, society cannot survive. Do you have any idea what some of these functions might be? Let us have a meaningful discussion. What do you think might be some of the functions of the family? Oh yes, we have reproduction, educational, economic, affectional, cultural, yeah, socialization. Yeah, all these are functions of the family. But what do all of these terms mean? Reproduction, educational, economic. What are we talking about? Let us look at the economic function. One of the most important functions of the family is the economic function. Parents in most cases are the sole breadwinners. They bring money and or food into the family to satisfy basic needs for food, clothing, shelter, recreation, books, medicines, and so on. Now, what about educational? We bring our children into this world, and so we have a fundamental responsibility to them, for their education. So the schools, we send them to school and they are trained formally, all right? But at home, we are informal educators of our children. And so we may supervise their homework, give encouragement and advice and other assistance. So you can continue to read on the reproduction. What about affection? Yeah? This is very important. The family provides an island of love, affection, and security for its members. And what about the cultural aspect? Our norms and values passed on. This is done, through the family. That is one of the role and function of the family, to pass on customs. And how are we socializing now with children? How is socialization important? It is in the family that childhood experiences are gained. By the time other influences like the school and peer group and place of work begin to shape the individual, right? The family at home would have done some groundwork. The family would have taught the child how to behave and play out many of the social roles which he or she will ultimately adopt. And so this process is known as socialization, and it's a function of the family. So putting things in perspective now, function of the family, we talk about procreation, socialization, an economic unit, emotional and psychological needs are given, all right? So we bear all those things in mind as we think about the family. All right, so how do we prepare now for parenthood? We're talking about family. So how do we prepare for parenthood? Preparation for parenthood. How do we prepare for parenthood? All right, so we go back to our text, and we're still looking at the individual and the family. The family has been described as the cornerstone of society, all right? And so by saying it is the cornerstone, that we understand that it is very, very important. Right. As the doctor must undergo years of intensive training before being allowed to practice their profession, that's what the book is saying we are reading, so too prospective parents must undertake the necessary training to acquire the skills to make them good parents, right? So we don't just get up and decide that, okay, we are going to be parents. We're supposed to be acquiring skills that will allow us to be good parents. And so we have here listed about nine things that we need to consider before we decide that we want to be parent. So we have to think about education, pursue education to acquire the skills to secure employment, because a stable job will ensure a steady and adequate income to cater for the economic needs of the family. Without a job, without an income, then we cannot carry out that function, that economic function of the family. We must be knowledgeable about family planning. Yes, we need to plan the family. So the family planning technique that we are going to employ, it is important because the size of the family is important based on, how the economic aspect will be dealt with. If we have too many children, if we are not planning properly, then we will not be able to continue the economic function in a suitable way. All right? We will not be able to support the members with economic and emotional need. All right? We need to build emotional strength. We need to have the patience to deal with the difficulties of childbearing. to be calm and composed when a child is crying for the entire night, or even when, situations even happen with the neighbors' children, things happen at play, at school. We need to build emotional strength to deal with these things. Resilience. It might be realistic to keep the child of a close relative for a few days to determine whether one is ready for parenthood. Learn child psychology. That is the fourth in the line of preparation. Okay? Are you with me? Okay? All right. Yes, we are together. So this is the fourth one. We have to learn some amount of child psychology. And this is important. So it helps us to, cater for the needs of children at different ages. All right? Because according to the psychologists, children's behavior changes at their as the ages change. So the things that we will be expecting from a 4-year-old, the 11-year-old child will be way past that. And then if we have children of different age groups in the household, then that can cause some kind of mayhem inside of our heads. So we have to do some amount of child psychology. The fifth one is to ensure that the demand of everyday life will leave us enough time to show our children affection and attention and to, socialize them. So moving on now, we are at the number 6. We are doing about nine, preparation tools for parenthood. We have to create a perfect environment for the child. Healthy, peaceful, and filled with educational material. In the Caribbean, this probably is lacking in terms of having the educational tools that we need for our children development. Basically, it's the internet that have been growing our children these days. We have to be healthy, drug-free, and free from communicable disease, just like maybe AIDS. All right, our health is important. Also, we need to study first aid techniques to be able to deal with emergencies as they arise. And we have to be knowledgeable about our religions to be able to pass on those teachings to our children, right? So we were looking at preparation for parenthood. So we have listed nine preparatory tools for parenthood, okay? We spoke of education, and we spoke of knowledge. We spoke of child psychology, and so on, all right? So that's preparing for parenthood. For some of us who have had kids already, some of you who are parents, how did you prepare? Did you take any of these 9 steps into consideration in a formal way? Let us have a meaningful discussion about it now. Yeah, let us learn from each other. What about now juvenile delinquency? Juvenile delinquency. First, we have to establish what we mean by the term juvenile. 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 All right? Juvenile. So a juvenile is defined as an individual who is under the age of 18 years old. All right? And so that juvenile individual below 18 years old. All right. And when we speak of juvenile delinquency, what are we really talking about? Juvenile delinquency. Here, juvenile delinquency are persons who are under the age of 18 years old and who are engaged in negative activities. So you are under 18 years old and you are also engaged in negative activities. What are some of the types of negative activities that persons might be engaged in? Students, any idea what type of negative activity a child or a juvenile might be engaged in that cause them to be referred to as, delinquent? Smoking, stealing, drug abuse, oh yes, gambling. All right, for example, smoking, stealing, drug abuse, gambling, sexual perversiveness or sexual perversion, and many others. These are activities that a juvenile might be engaging in, you know, and these are impacting this juvenile in a negative way. So these are things that we have to consider. So a juvenile and juvenile delinquency, those are two different terms. A juvenile being below 18 years old. Juvenile delinquency means here you have an individual who is below 18 years old, and this individual is engaged in negative activities. Okay, all right, so we are continuing, and we're going to look at family structure, all right? Family structure. So here we are understanding that family structure is influenced by the type of marriage which are permitted. So the structure of the family, all right, is influenced by the type of marriage which are permitted. So we have conjugal family. So it makes the male and female relationship the basis of the family. All right, so we have the conjugal family. All right, and then we have now the consanguine family. All right, and here we have blood relations of several generations. And generation can be either traced through the male or the female line. If the generation, right, the consanguine family's generation is traced through the males, then it is called a patrilineal group. An example of a patrilineal group is the Igbos of Nigeria. The Igbo of Nigeria. Now, if the relationship, the consanguine relationship, is traced through the female line, then this is called a matrilineal descent. So we have the Asante of Ghana. And these are a matrilineal descent group. Now, the difference between the consanguine and the conjugal family is that the consanguine family maintains its continuity through generations, whereas the conjugal family is formed with every marriage. Our Caribbean family has mainly the conjugal family pattern. In the Caribbean, mainly the conjugal family pattern. Here we have in the Caribbean, okay, we have the monogamy, one man and one wife. Here, this is what is being practiced in the Caribbean, Great Britain, and the US. In other places, like in Muslim societies, we have polygyny or polygyny. Here we have one man having several wives. Then again, in Sri Lanka, some of the tribes, they practice polyandry. And here you have one woman having several husbands. All right, that, you know, it's part of their culture. In the Caribbean, this is not formal. I mean, we'll be seeing some of it, you know, in an informal way, where one man might have two women and one woman might have several men. But then you don't find that they are formalized this type of relationship. There is no legality to it. They can't get married. Then we have the polygamy now, and this is, you know, taking into consideration the polygyny and the polyandry. All right, so this is a generalized term for many wives and many husbands. In the Caribbean, basically we're saying that we practice monogamy. Societies have different systems to trace relationships in family, as we had learned already. So whether they choose to trace it through male or female lines, through marriage back several generations, or not to trace it at all, it is all part of what we call system of kingship. Your king or your relations. You are related. Your king, your relation. Hence, the way you trace them is a kingship system. So you're tracing through your relative. In the Caribbean, we have several structures. Not only do the function of the family vary from one society to the next, but the term family itself has several meanings. When we say family, it varies from one society to the next. So family has different meaning. In the Caribbean, the family structure includes extended family, the nuclear family, and the single parent family. But that's not the only family type that we have. We have the nuclear family, okay, and going back over extended sibling household. Then we also have reorganized family and the single parent family. So hold that thought and let us go back now to the juveniles. We spoke of juvenile and juvenile delinquency, but I want us to talk a little bit about the cause for juvenile delinquency? What do you think might be some of the causes? So we have here maybe peer pressure, parental neglect, all right, coming under dysfunctional families where children are unloved, abused, and humiliated. So we have situations where we have children in need of care and protection, and the state will have to come in now to assist in the care and protection of these children. One writer said, a delinquent is made, not born. That means you did not produce a delinquent child. You did not born a delinquent child. Rather, delinquency is probably a learned behavior. Yes, situations cause a child, a juvenile, to become delinquent. And then we ask now, how then are we going to solve this problem of delinquency? There may be many routes that we can take, two of which are listed here. We can have counseling and rehab. Also, we can have moral education, where we teach children moral values. Do not steal. Do not take what is not yours. Do not engage in illicit sexual activities. Do not lie. All of these things, morality. All right, so I just thought that we would just briefly touch on this. Some of you will be doing SBF projects on juvenile delinquency. It would do you good, to continue reading on this topic. And so continuing the family types, so we say in the Caribbean, we have different family structures, mainly 3. So we're looking at the extended family, and to understand what is meant by the term extended family. We're looking at family structure and types. Family structure and family types. Family structure and types. All right? And we are saying in the Caribbean, we have basically 3 types. We have the extended, we have the nuclear, and the single parent. Nuclear and single parent. Okay. So we're going to discuss these briefly. Okay, so the extended family form, right, is that which typically consists of several generations of persons living in the same household, under the same roof. So the term extended, all right, what do you think that really means? The term extended family in our society. Any response? What do you think? Yeah?
Like both parents, grandparents.
The extended family in our society can be used more loosely to describe a system of kinship relationship which are very close. Family members do not necessarily live together, but the kinship relationship is very close. All right? So, though parents and their relatives, they usually live together. Sometimes they do not live in the same household, but they live in close proximity. All right? And they are always in constant contact. So that is the extended family. Several generations might be living together. Grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren might be living there. All right? And then you can develop more on that. You can discuss a little more of that among yourself. All right? As the name itself suggests, the extended family consists of members which extend beyond a mother and a father and their children. In one form of extended family, several generations might live together under the same roof or in a family compound. A big yard, as we call it, that you have several houses. So we call it a big compound. So you have several generations of persons or relatives, kinship, living there. So such an extended family may consist of several married siblings, their spouses, and offsprings, together with grandparents and other relatives. So that's the extended family, and that's one type of family that we see very popular in the Caribbean. Another type is the nuclear family. Have you heard the term nuclear family before? Anyone? Nuclear family? Yes? No?
Nuclear would include like the mother and the father, child living together as a family.
Yes, nuclear is a closer unit. It's basically the parents and the children together. So it's not extended where you have grandparents and uncle and aunt and everybody. It's basically a unit, that social unit, parents and children. So a nuclear family consists of a mother, father, and their children living under the same roof. the nuclear family is common in modern industrial societies. So most of the family types that we're seeing now in these contemporary times are the nuclear, right? They consist in most cases of parents and children that are household. The relationship may be based on a formal marriage sanctified by a religious or legal ceremony, or it may be a common law union or consensual union where a man and a woman live together in a household in mutual agreement based on love and or shared responsibility. No legal contract or formal marriage is entered into. All right, so that's the nuclear family. And the next one we're going to look at is the single parent family. We are all aware of this type of single parent family. This is very common in the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, not just the Caribbean, many other countries outside of the Caribbean will find a lot of single parent family. And why do we have single parent family? You know, why? By the way, let us talk about what a single parent family is, and then we might look at some of the reasons we might have a single parent family. So as the name suggests, the single parent family consists of only one parent living with his or her child or children. One parent, be it the father and the kids or the mother and the kid. The single parent family consists of only one parent living with his or her child or children. So single parent families are formed out of the following circumstances. So here we are giving some of the reasons why we have single parent families. One partner might be dead. Migration. Marriage has been broken down through divorce or maybe separation. A woman might bear a child for a male who refuses to marry her or whom she refuses to marry or live with. You know, or maybe it's a situation where, yes, it's not that he would refuse to marry her, but he just can't because he's already in another committed relationship. All right, but some single persons make deliberate choices not to marry, right? But rather they adopt children. All right, okay. So some women want children and believe that they can rear them on their own as effectively as two parents. Occasionally, single women adopt children. All right, so we can glance on some other one, the sibling household, siblings. Yeah, and this is a relatively new thing, a new phenomena where both parents are absent. Yes, both parents are absent, so it left to the siblings to grow themselves. So the older sibling now becomes responsible for the younger ones. All right, so this is a relatively new phenomena where both parents are absent from the home. Older brothers or sister takes care of the younger ones in the home. And why might this be so? This might be so, yeah, because maybe a work situation takes both parents away from home. It can be a situation too, very unfortunate, where even incarceration causes separation. Maybe some person might figure that their 16-year-old daughter is big enough to play the role as parent. So what happened? The parents migrate, and then the children become what we call barrel children. So it's just the barrels come in. So it's a sibling household that is taking place there. And then we're going to look at what they refer to as the reorganized family. So this is where, you know, when one of the spouse may have had an earlier relationship, maybe even had a marriage, and that marriage, you know, was broken, and then one of the partner would enter into another relationship. So a child is brought into a new relationship. So, for example, I was married, the marriage went sour, and then I leave with my child and join another family. So now we have a lot of step-brothers and half-brothers and half-sisters coming up after a while. So one spouse or both spouses may bring into the new family child or children from former relationship. In such a family, now children may have several half-sisters and half-brothers. Do you know of any situations like that? You know, think about in your community, have you seen any situations like that happening? Well, we would have seen it, but before today, we would not have known about the term reorganized family. But that is what it is called. Somebody moving into a new relationship, bringing a child or children along, and then now join another set of children, and then new children being born, and you have half brothers and half sisters coming out of this new union. We had omitted one type of family relationship, and that is the one called friending. Yes, friending. You know, my friend coming later, or my friend was here yesterday. So this is an interesting type of family relation, right? This visiting arrangement or friending relationship, all right? So in this relationship, there is no permanent father figure. No, sir. Father not there permanently. Him disappear. Him only come visit. The man visits the woman at intervals. That's what is happening, intervals. This loose tie in this type of union very often break. And a woman might find herself going through this stage more than once in her lifetime. Because she doesn't have a stable partner. It's just visiting relationships. So, okay, so John comes and he's there visiting for a year, 2 years, whatever. But there's no real commitment to a relationship. And then he leaves, and then Tom comes, and then Joshua, and then things like that, right? So these loose ties in this type of union very often break, and a woman might find herself going through this stage more than once in her lifetime. It is not unusual to find that another child is produced with every new union. Okay, you know, so every new man that she has, she probably bears him a child. All right, so this pattern of behavior or friendship, you know, is called serial monogamy. So she has several monogamous relationships. So she's not having 2 men at one time. She's having one for this period. So they're in a monogamous relationship. And then she has another type like that. And then that one breaks up. And then she has another one. She has become a serial monogamous person. So the type of relationship, you know, this pattern is called serial monogamy. Have you ever heard of it? Have you ever heard the term serial monogamy? No? Yes? Okay. I had not learned it before. I knew about, you know, persons having friends coming, but I didn't even know that it was called friending. So this one is new. All right. So what can we say about Caribbean families? Some of the general things that we see happen in Caribbean families. The head of the household is of either sex. It can be male or female. All right. The household unit tend to be small, right? Basically. Or, shouldn't even say small, because some families are big. But for the most part, in this kind of contemporary society, we find that the households are getting smaller. Many adults also live by themselves. Yes, you find a man over there, so I'm just a Tarzan it or a Bunty it out, or a woman decides that she just go live by herself. Or the woman might live with her children, all right, and her grandchildren. Okay, so the societies in the Caribbean usually share a formal commitment to monogamy. All right, the kind of conjugal family, a monogamous type of relationship. All right, among the Caribbean folks, our working class family life is not as loose and disorganized as one might think. All right, so far from being promiscuous, several relations are regarded within the limits imposed by the family structure. All right, and there's a general choice towards the free choice of a spouse. Members of the younger generation often claim the right to choose their own partners. So the rights of women are becoming even more strongly reorganized, whereas one time women probably didn't have much rights, you know, and were not very well respected, but that is changing now. So the rights of a woman are becoming more strongly recognized in respect of both choice in marriage and decision making within the family. So there's a general trend also towards the extension of the children's right? So children are having right now. Yeah, so it's not just parents who were taking decisions and we were not listening to the children. There's a general trend towards the extension of children's right. In a situation where children are subject to extreme deprivation, sexual exploitation, and abuse. So we have the children's advocate in many countries, and the government or the state is more concerned about children who are in need of care and protection. So in the Caribbean, we are trying to organize things. We are trying to organize ourselves. It is important to note that the negative or the positive aspect of Caribbean family structure are not confined to any one type of family. All right? So you might find a particular behavior being extended right across the board, whether it's an extended family, nuclear family, sibling type of family, reorganized family, friendship, whatever it is. You know, behaviors are not, you know, confined to any one type of family. No, we have our ancestors coming down from days of slavery and all of that. We were not just placed here. We were not just dropped here out of, you know, an aeroplane. We have ancestral, what would we call it now? Ownership. We have ancestors who were slaves. We are part of the whole slave trade system. So we want to look at the effect of slavery on family structure, right? How family structures are influenced or were influenced by Africans, our Asians, our European, and our Amerindian ancestors. How these persons influenced our family structure today. Effect of slavery on family structure. What we know is that the family structure, was one where family had no legal meaning. No, that's what the text says. Family had no legal meaning. The slave remained the property of the owner, the plantation owner. So marriage was discouraged or it was forbidden. Yeah, that's how it was. Thus, among the slaves, a family relationship meant living with the person without any legal or religious attachment. So this attitude has survived into present-day Caribbean society, where we see the common law or consensual union. And this type of relationship usually occurs mainly among the working class group. And so oftentimes we will hear about the injustice of this type of arrangement, this type of arrangement where there is no legal union taking place during the slavery period. So no family structure had any guarantee of lasting. At any moment, a man, a woman, or a child could be sold. The role of the father as a provider and protector did not exist, no. And children who belonged to the owner of the plantation, children belonged to the owner of the plantation. Although some women were still able to have some authority over the children, but in general, the children belonged to the owner of the plantation. So the feature of mother as a dominant figure has also survived in many Caribbean families because of the whole African influence on the family structure. So an important area of the African retention in the Caribbean is that of signs and omens. The common belief of the peasants involve love, courtship, and marriage. So our grandparents may know some of them. And here, we'll just talk about a couple. If you give your lover a handkerchief, the love will die. That's what they say. It will not last. If you put on your hat, and you turn on your hat on the table or your bed, you will not get married. If someone sweeps a broom across your foot, you won't get married. I'm sure you have heard some of these. Yeah. So that's the African influence on our family structure. It was more of a common law type of relationship. And that was based on the fact that they were not able to get married. And the children were owned basically by the plantation owners. The European influenced our family structure too. So the influence on marriage. European custom demanded that dating, courtship, and marriage comes before the establishment of a family. So the European culture, that we have inherited suggests that, listen man, you need to go through a period of courtship, dating, and so before you decide to get married. So marriage was viewed as a contract with a strict definition of masculine and feminine role. The man was the breadwinner and the woman looked after the house and the children. So she ensured that the man had food, undisturbed rest, and recreation to refresh him and enable him to face his labors. The wife's activities was defined strictly in terms of the husband's convenience. So she lived her life to more or less please her husband. So because of the strong influence of Europe on the Caribbean, during the last 4.5 centuries, European customs are strongly practiced with modern variations as they do in Europe. So we look at the Amerindians' influence on marriage. So in the Caribbean, there exist communities of our Amerindian ancestors, all right? In Brazil and Guatemala, all right, according to the ancestral culture, the newlywed persons should not have sexual relation until after 3 days. And why? Their culture is based on the fact that if when persons get married, then their bodies, they receive the body of Christ, and so they have to treat it that way. It has to be revered and respected. So 3 days have to pass before any type of sexual activity could take place. And to deviate from this, it means that you'll be committing a major sin. All right? So our Carib ancestors in some smaller territories have also adopted Christian sacraments in their celebration. However, aspects of their own pre-Columbus cultures are still important. Yeah. So that's what we see happening here as far as the influence of our ancestors have on our marriage and the family structure. But there are changes in the family structure in the Caribbean. Yeah, there are a lot of changes taking place. More and more marriages is seen as an equal partnership in which husband and wife share their lives and their responsibilities. So it's no longer the man was the breadwinner and the wife stays at home and be doing her wifely duties and all of that. No. Basically, they are sharing the responsibilities now. It's more like a partnership, equal partnership, in which husband and wives share their lives and responsibility for making decisions. The male therefore assists with traditional female activities like domestic chores and child care. All right, so it's not like, okay, men went out to work and women stay at home. No, we have moved away from that type of practice, or we are moving away from that type of practice. In terms of development and change, all right, in the family structure, the feminine role is no longer, or the female role is no longer that of a homemaker or a wage earner, but both. She's both a homemaker and a wage earner. This was brought about by an increase in the educational opportunities that became available for females and the growth of the industrialized society. So women are no longer just homemakers or wage earners. Women are both homemakers and wage earners. So the internal structure of the family is changing also. The number of children in the family becomes less, and especially so among the middle class family. So middle class family, you probably find, maybe 1, 2, or maybe 3 children. And even the lower class family tend to be moving away, from this large offspring size. And this, the single parent family, the single parent family has emerged. So we know that not many persons are going to be wanting many children to be taken care of. In terms of freedom and choice, all right, so we are talking about changes in the Caribbean family, and we are looking at the cooperation, how persons cooperate, and we are saying that the male marriage is seen more or less as a partnership, equal partnership, in which the husband and the wife, they have pooled their resources together and they have shared responsibilities. In terms of change and development, women are going out to work because basically we are now educated and we can join the workforce. All right. And we are saying that the internal structure of the family is also changing. We're in the middle class family, more so we are seeing that less children are being born into the family. But what about freedom and choices that we make as a family? So although legal marriage is on the increase, right, many couples prefer to live together in a common law relationship. And this is coming from our African descent, where many of our ancestors were slaves, and so they were not able to get married, right? So many couples prefer to live together in a common law relationship rather than to enter into a contract or a marriage, all right? The single parent family includes career women who are unwilling to disrupt their career, but are proud of their femininity in having 1 or 2 children. So yes, the single parent family, the woman probably doesn't want to change things by getting married and to be, taking on that type of responsibility, caring for her husband and all of that. But at the same time, she wants her children and she'll be very happy to have kids. All right? And then we see that it is the grandmother, basically, who will end up raising the child more so. The mother will be going out to work and providing, but it is the mother, the grandmother, who actually is is responsible for the day-to-day care of the child of the single parent family. So there's a lot of change and development taking place, and freedom of choice. You're free to whether you want to get married, not get married, have children, not have children. All right. So in terms of development and change continuing now, we see current patterns of movement have led now to the development of sibling type of households. And these consist of children of the same family whose parents have migrated. So we are familiar with the term barrel children. So sometimes an older relative may supervise the activities in the home, and the income that comes from abroad is managed by this family member also. But in some instances, it is left to the eldest child to be the head of the household in a sibling type of situation. Yeah. So we find children as young as 16-year-old taking up the type of role as parents. Okay, but how about interaction among family, or within the family? There's a greater dependence on the school in helping to develop the skills, values, and attitudes. And this has been brought about by the decrease in control that is exercised by the family over its members. So more so, we are leaving much of the socialization that the family should be doing. We are leaving that now to the schools to do. So many of the skill sets and values and the cultures that are being passed on and things that are supposed to be learned, these things are, being done by the schools. So the family, we would say, have lost to some extent one of its basic function, and that is as a unit of economic production. All right. So no longer are we seeing families, engage in like making of brooms, having cleaners and doing farming at home and all of that. No. Nowadays, there's a greater sense of independence and sharing is given now to the adolescents in the home. Yeah, man, young couples have to assume full responsibility for their children and home. In the urban areas, children are less likely to have the comfort of a grandmother or an aunt living nearby who can act as a substitute parent or a babysitter. So, in terms of interaction, then we find that it becomes difficult. There's not much interaction taking place within family anymore. The family has lost much of its value, and in carrying out its function as an economic unit, we are not seeing that anymore. So, in the urban areas, children are less likely to have the comfort of a grandmother. So, growing public concern about the family has led to the creation of family clinics, public welfare departments, family court, and laws designed to support the family in one way or another. There are also books, magazines, and radio programs that we can listen to, we can buy, we can read, we can do whatever we have to do, all right, to ensure that the family remains as a unit. So within the family, there are a variety of persons of different personalities, age, and aims in life. Relationship between these people are not always easy. There are factors that will affect our relationships within a family. Yes, many variables. The different roles that the members of the family must play. These can cause some kind of effect. So for example, a man will have to be the husband to his wife. He will have to be the father to his children, a son to his own mother. Yeah. And other relations to other members of the family. The family size and the spacing of the children also is important, and this can cause change in the family. This can affect family relationship, the interaction among members of the family. When age differences are small, then the children can be of constant help to each other. But when the spacing is very wide, then it's more like the older one playing the parental roles. And then we have things like change. Some type of changes will affect the relationship in our family. So like changing the composition of the family, like for example, the birth, of a child, a new arrival, or maybe the elderly relative have to come and live maybe in the household, or there may be an illness, terminal illness, accidents, or a handicapped member of the family have to be taken care of. So these things can cause all kind of stresses and strains, on members of the family, and then you find that the relationship sometimes changes, and yeah, this can be frustrating somewhat. It can be. And then now we have things like, little conflicts will develop, and conflicts can develop because of financial difficulty that we might find ourselves in. The family might find itself, in some kind of financial difficulty, poverty. Financial difficulties can affect good family relationship, yes. Many persons worry constantly about the high cost of living. It is important, therefore, to prepare financial budget. Yes, financial budgeting is important. We have to track our income and our expenses. We have to budget to meet the needs of the family. Also, we have the influence of peers, the peer group. That has a lot of influence on family relationship, and it's a cause of conflict. Sometimes, yeah. Peer pressure and the peer group influence. Desertion by family members, separation, divorce, death. All these things, can affect family relationship. And then when we have the teenagers in the family to deal with, that can be a really, really panicky type of situation. The teenage period is the most difficult, or it can be the most difficult of all in a person's relationship with the family. Because, for one, the teenager feels the need to be independent of the family. He wants to separate himself. He's not sure whether he's an adult or he's still a child. He has forgotten that he is an adolescent. And so he wants to dictate, and he wants this, and he knows that, and everything he knows, or she knows. And this can cause major conflict. The teenager feels that he or she must conform to the peer group. You're right, so it's a peer group now that is dictating the actions or the behavior. So the teenager feels that he has to conform to the peer group, and oftentimes he rebels against the parents' way of life. The peer group causes rebellion, and they like to compete. There's a strong competitive spirit about them. So as parents, we must learn to understand these realities, right? And we have to be able to show patience and resilience and tolerance and understanding and compromise and all of that, So it's a big thing. It's a big thing. But some helpful hints, or to be guided by the correct persons, then we will be able to navigate this path. Because we can set good examples that will show our kids that our way of life, that we are trying to, be moral in this society, and teach them the values of, being good children, obedient, honest in their thinking. We can assure them that they are normal and that this is a way that they, they are expected to behave, but then they need guidance. We'll have to try and develop a relationship where we talk with them. But remember, that these teenagers, they're not going to tell us anything, they're not talking to us. All right, let me read some of the things that I see in this book. We have to use correct names for sex organs and sexual behaviors. We have to practice them, saying them loud in front of a mirror if we are too embarrassed, yeah? So we have to practice these things. We have to give accurate, honest, short, and simple answers to them. We have to accept questions at face value. For example, how old do you have to be to have sex? The child might ask us. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm thinking about having sex or what should I do? No. Questions about sex are often attempts to understand our family values. So let the teenager know we are available and make it a habit to share what we think and we feel. We have to be a part of their lives. They're going to shut us out, but we are the parents and we have to set the example. We have to reach out to them while it's not getting in their spaces, but we have to be the parent. We can't change roles. This is not a game. All right. So basically, we were talking about the individual and the family. All right. The individual and the family. Hold that thought. Students, are you understanding what is happening here? Are you enjoying the lecture? It's your time to give me the feedbacks now. I'm listening. Talk to me. Yeah, talk to me. And so at this time, we want to do a quick recap, looking at the individual and family. So we're looking at family unions in the Caribbean. The Caribbean is one part of the world where is found an interesting array of family types. These various family forms have been the product of our historical past and inherited from the days of colonialism, African slavery, and East Indian indentureship. So we have the legal union, where this family type is characterized by a formal marriage, blessed by a religious and or legal ceremony. All right? So a formal marriage can only be performed legally if the parties to be married are over 18 years old. Then we spoke about the common law union. It's becoming one of the more popular family norms in the Caribbean. In the instance, a man and a woman decide to live together under a common roof as a man and wife without undergoing a religious or legal marriage ceremony. The arrangement is mutual and is based on the love and shared ability. All right? There are disadvantages, of course, to any one of these unions, right? An obvious disadvantage of such a union. The common law one is the lack of its lack of bringing strength, which may keep it together during the times of storms. An obvious disadvantage of the common law union is that it lacks the binding strength, which may keep it together during hard periods. Children born in such a family are termed illegitimate in some countries of the Caribbean. All right? So we can continue reading on this, right, from the textbook. And then we have the visiting type of relationship. All right, we're talking about family unions in the Caribbean. We have the visiting type of relationship. So in this type of relationship, a woman lives without a permanent spouse. She is visited at interval by the male for purposes of sexual intercourse mainly. Children who are born of such unions are also termed illegitimate in some countries, since the parents do not normally marry. The almost permanent absence of the father from the family results in the mother being the main person who has the power and authority in the house. There are some terms that we will need to familiarize ourselves with: monogamy, polygamy, polygyny, polyandry, endogamy, exogamy, patrilineal, matrilineal, bilineal, patrilocal, matrilocal, neolocal, patriarchal, matriarchal, egalitarian. So we need to familiarize ourselves with these terms. It will be good that you do your research. Continuing the recap, we were talking about social change and the family. So before the Industrial Revolution, right, the main occupation of the majority of the population was agriculture. So a variety of crops were planted and harvested mainly by manual labor. So consequently now, a large labor force was required to prepare the land, plant, and harvest the crops. So families therefore tended to be large. So when children came of age and got married, they found employment on the family farm. They stayed within the family business, right? The married couples continue residing with either the husbands or the wife's parents. So it was common, therefore, to find a large number of extended families, joint families, and all of that. But with modern industrial society now, we have seen a decline of the extended family. And so there's an increase in the nuclear family structure. And this trend, is due partly, to the following characteristic of an industrialized society, where we have increase in education opportunities for both male and female. Increase in the number of jobs in offices and factories. These come with industrialization. Increase in the number of women joining the labor force. Yeah, because we have gotten educated and all of that. Growth of childcare centers and nurseries which cater for infants of the working couples. The necessity of employees leaving their extended family to live closer to their workplace. Young adults no longer depend on parents for providing employment. So they have gone out. They have left the family setting and they have gone out. So education has empowered individuals to choose a spouse without reference to their parents. So we no longer need the approval of parents, right? With education, we are empowered to choose our own spouses. And this has resulted in a movement away from the arranged marriages. Old age pension, houses, and other welfare benefits, which are now provided by governments, have reduced the responsibilities of children for their aging parents. So we see that with industrialization comes social change and women joining the workforce. So many things have changed. And sometimes even women are going out to work, men are unable to find employment, and so roles change. And then we talk about gender issues and all of that. But these things we will be able to discuss, some other time. This is just an eye-opener, and we will continue now reading. I think now we have broken ice, and so we'll be able to better, move forward in a better way. I was finding it quite difficult to break the ice in putting forth the lecture. So I decided to do this video so that at least students can listen over and over, and so start to build a foundation on which to learn. So next time we meet here, for social studies, we'll be looking at the individual and the society. We were looking at the individual and family. So the next topic we will look at will be the individual and the society. And we'll continue this way, and hopefully we can get to the end of the syllabus in time for the May exams. We are off to a late start, and so we have to be, changing the way that we do the teaching and facilitate learning. My name is June. I'm a facilitator.